Hi guys, Riddler here. Thank you all so much for the support recently. I appreciate every one of you who has interacted with my content. In the next few weeks I'm going to be rebranding my channels with a new logo and possibly a new name, so stay tuned for that. I'm also going to be starting up a new video series on here where instead of finding posts on Reddit, you'll be asking you guys for answers to questions that I will post on my Instagram. If you would like to participate, then make sure to go to the solo.to link in the description and follow me on Instagram. Now that that's out of the way. People of the world, what is the scariest thing you've ever seen? When I was 9, me and my father went to France for approximately 3 weeks. We are French and live in Reunion Island. We were staying at the edge of Paris Center, so we had to take the subway every time we wanted to go somewhere. This one time it was very late, or at least very late for a 9-year-old boy, something like 8 or 9 p.m. And as it was late and we had done multiple museums and all during the day, I remember both of my 35M father and I being very exhausted. We then went to the subway, which is usually crowded, but this time there were only few people, so we were only 7 in the subway train, which is kind of unusual. Thing is, there was this sweet lady, somewhere in her 30s I think. She was really sweet, she had a big smile, was well dressed, and it seemed like she only wanted to discuss and have a little chat before coming home. Well, she went to take with my father and then she asked me about school, my favorite cartoon, still DBZ to this day, my favorite ice cream, etc. And even though my father is kind of the suspicious one when it comes to stranger in the subway, I think he let his guard down and just let her talk to me. I then told her my favorite flavor of all time was strawberry, and as I say that, she got up, made a big smile to my father and told her she had some strawberry candies left from her niece's birthday and asked if she could give it to us. The funny thing is that my father had already told me multiple times to politely refuse it. Some stranger wanted to give me candies. But as I say, it was late and her proposition didn't imply to follow her son. My father accepted and she gave me 4 strawberry pastilles, then she exited the subway right after it and told us goodbye. Fast forward, we went back home, went to bed, and the next morning I had kinda forgot the pastilles, which probably saved my life, so they stayed in the kitchen and we went out again to do some cool stuff all day long. When we came back home the candies had melted, it was a very hot day and I hadn't put them in the fridge. When my dad saw it, it annoyed him a little because he would have to clean it and etc. So he started to yell at me and then he stopped, like he froze and stopped everything. He was turning his back at me and I couldn't see what was going in. I asked him what the FCK was happening, but he didn't answer me even though he was literally 5 meters away from me. That only had got me very scared, but it was nothing compared to when I went next to him and saw his face in absolute horror, like I had never seen him or anyone before, and I remember I was so scared that I wanted to cry. And then I saw the pastilles, and I saw there were razor blades coming out of it. Which means this sweet lady fort yesterday, which asked me what was my favorite cartoon, actually wanted to hurt me. I didn't understood it implied death at the time, but the way my father was in absolute anger and fear was enough to make me understand how serious it was. After that we still went to do cool activities, but we stopped talking to people, every people. And I know that event broke my dad's trust in people, and I still remember that sweet lady that wanted to kill me. So, 4 years ago I was at a scout summer camp in Pirineos, northern Spain, and was sharing a tent with some friends. We were all around 13 years old. The camp was located near a natural park that had the deadliest bears in Europe, so our scout leaders forbid us leaving the campsite during the night to avoid any unfortunate incidents. Around the 8 to 9 day, a friend, M12 at the time, and I, F13, decided it was a good idea to go for a long walk at around 3 a.m. When we left camp, we ended up following a rocky field leading to the top of the mountain, and our dumbasses decided it would be a great plan going there despite the numerous signals warning about bears. We both climbed the few rocks we had left and reached the top. From one way of the top you couldn't see nothing of the other, it was like a wall, and once up there, we turned around to see 3 bears twice our size looking at us. We panicked and tried to go back to camp, but the route we took couldn't be taken backwards because of inclination, so we climbed a tree, as if bears couldn't, and tried to be silent while figuring out what to do to call our leaders. Didn't have phones at camp. While we tried to figure something out, I could see the bears slowly approaching us, with one of them having blood dripping down its chin after killing an animal it decided would be the next prey. Its haze was focused on us, and I could only see that gigantic beast coming to get me without being able to do anything about it. In the end I managed to call my leader with the walkie-talkies we both had installed in our watches and had him, M37, and a few others save our asses with their knives and SHT, so thank you fair, oh you won. So, when I was like 7 or 8, my mom and I were traveling on a train to some place. The train would be going overnight too. This guy who sat next to where we were, there was a wall between us and he sat on the other side of it, was really friendly, but creepy at the same time. Asked me my name and stuff, and I thought it was nothing scary. At night, this dude came around once more and entered where we were. He had a bag under where we were sleeping. He opened it and took something out and went back. I felt like something was wrong, so I told my mom about it. She told me that nothing's going to happen. As expected, the dude came back at around 2 or 3 a.m. and opened the curtains a bit and saw I was awake. So he left. I was terrified, but I made it till the morning and reached the place without any trouble. Pretty sure he was planning to kidnap a 5-6-year-old that night. I've seen all kinds of scary stuff, but one of the scariest things that has ever happened to me has happened twice in 12 years. I like to go on walks or ride my bike at night. The streets will be dead and nobody will be around, but you can hear somebody running towards you. You can hear them breathing. You can hear their keys. You can hear them run by you, but there is nobody around, and it doesn't happen in complete darkness. It happens out in the open in street lights. It doesn't sound that bad until it happens to you, but it makes your blood run cold. Okay, it was the early winters of 2018. We usually used to have an annual fest at our school, which I was a participant of, me and my couple of buddies to be precise. We used to stay late night in the school for practices and other stuff. Well, it was around 8 to 9 p.m. at night, dark early, as it is in winters. We were done with our deeds and were casually roaming the school grounds while teachers were in the rooms doing preparations. We barely had any lights on at that time. The school grounds was quite normal, but it was used and didn't have any maintained grass. We usually never went there even during games and were advised to continue the same. Well, we did now. It was dark already. When we got closer, we already weren't getting a good vibe. The first room had a light bulb. As we went inside, we saw something we could never forget. It was a shattered mirror with somewhat old blood stains on it and black leathery coat. And that thing from where the water goes out in bathroom. Never saw more terrifying. So, when I was younger, I had to go to a town nearby because I was training sports there, and we had those trainings pretty late, from 7 to 9 p.m. during winter, and one night after the training I suddenly heard a child screaming. I shrugged it off as some kid just playing, and when I was walking through a dark hall 10 minutes later, I saw a shadow of a man just staring at me. When I saw it, I just ran for my life. I still don't know who or what that was. So I'm a guy with long hair who takes an extreme amount of pride in it. I take a picture of myself and post on a social media site, and I get a DM request from this one person. He had this extreme interest in my hair and kept asking me questions about my hair and if I ever had problems such as lice. He eventually asked if he could have a piece of my hair. I didn't know what to say. I was confused as hell. Then he said if he ever sees me, he's gonna cut a piece of my hair off. That's when I learned he had a forced hair cutting fetish. I know it wasn't the worst thing ever, but having someone wanting to take an extreme mark of pride from me still scares me. So my mother's family is into black magic, and so after divorcing my father, weird things started happening in our home. Small flying insects used to appear in our home out of nowhere as soon as when we went to sleep, even when the lights were on. At first, we thought it was probably a hygiene issue, so we called professionals to help, but even they couldn't help. The insects were small in size and would die within 10 minutes of appearing out of thin air, quite literally. I didn't believe in all these things for the longest time, but experiencing that firsthand, I was and am still shocked and horrified. We took help from a priest, and he told us to do a cleanse with dupe and incense sticks around the times those insects appear. This kept happening for 2 weeks, and after we started with the cleanse, it all stopped. This was 3 months ago. We still do puja cleanses regularly, at least twice per month.